Bobby, thank you so much. Welcome to Craft. Thank you for coming and doing this for us. At Craft, our focus is on putting the spotlight back on fundamentals, and who better than you? I mean, everybody knows about all your achievements. I'm not really going to delve deep into it.
Don't. It's embarrassing. I feel like an imposter, man, sometimes. Yeah.
No, but I'm very curious. I read your story about how you got into advertising. How did you got interested in copywriting? And that's an interesting story. I'd love to hear it from you.
So this is like, भगवान कहाँ से भीख देता है तुम्हें समझ में नहीं आता है, right? And it was a strange thing. I did 3 years of computer engineering, right? And I was terrible at it. The only reason I got to the 3rd year is because I used to copy. So there are no this thing. I hardly attended class and stuff like that. And I dropped out after my father passed away. Do English literature. English literature because that's where all the pretty girls were. I had zero ambition. And when I was a kid, I was, tell my friend just possibly to act cool that my ambition in life is to be a burden on society, right? Finally, I've become that because I do sweet fuck all these days. And a friend of mine, Mark Fernandez, he wanted to become a copywriter. So he said, what is copywriting? He said, you see ads and all that, no?
Yeah.
So you have to write that. I said, sir, yeah, I write essays and all that, and I'm writing letters. How hard can that be? He said, but what are the ads? He said, no, what you see on TV, in the newspaper, and on hoardings and all that. So when you're traveling, you see that time there were no vinyls and all that, right?
You would go and paint.
These guys used to go up there and paint. That's when I shat bricks. But I said, you have to go up there and write. I said, I can't paint. And B, I'm vertigo. I'm scared of heights, man. I can't go up and write. I said, no, you don't have, you sit in the office and write. And these guys go and paint those words up there. Wow. I said, oh shit, I can do that. Somehow I did the advertising course at XIC, Xavier's Communications. Somehow I got in. And then hit the job trail. किसी ने तरस खा के बोला ये बहुत बेचारा है, and gave me junior copyright, trainee copywriter. And I was
which was
McCann.
Okay.
Right? Tarasina McCann and Erickson, as it was called in those days. And I made less money than the janitor. Right? Yeah. I gave my first salary to my mother. Poor thing, she must have cried. But she told me, she must have, at least he's doing something. Right? Which she must have probably given up on, कि Baba, this guy will turn out to be a complete wastrel. At least he's employed against listing. Right? And I gave her the money so that I could get a little more money back in return. And that's how I started. And it was like, writing freaking back of the label copy and whatever. And in the beginning, my boss said, why don't you try account management and all that? You're terrible at this thing. Tera kuch nahi hoga yaar. And the only reason why I took interest, because I was like, skating by in life, right? All I wanted to know is enough money for 4 hundreds and Chota 4 square and, 7 in whiskey, which was like ethyl alcohol flavored with tea leaves. And they called it whiskey. And it was some $15 for a quarter or something in that sort back in the day. Or less than that, probably. But he said, like, you're figuring you're never going to amount to anything. And I said, the motherfucker, I'm going to show him. So I started reading about great ads and stuff like that, right? And then once he gets sucked in, right? And that time, like, writers like Neil French, Indra Sinha, and David Abbott, Mike Lascabo, I mean, amazing writers, Bob Levinson. Um, and you get sucked into that world. And um, I mean, words. And it's not just words, it's how words can make people feel, right? Has always been like, it resonates in my soul, right? That's something that's very much a part of me. And I just did not, like I tell myself, I'm writing these love letters for these losers and all that because like, mera daru mil raha hai, your cigarette mil raha hai. But I enjoyed that part of, like, what I write is going to make somebody feel something, right? And that's the whole point of it, the humanity of it, right? To understand somebody's life, right? And their fears, their hopes, their desires, and all that. Yeah. And crassly put to manipulate them. That's fun. Right? I truly enjoy that. And every piece of art, in a sense, is a manipulation.
Yeah.
Right? It makes you feel the way they want to make you feel.
Yeah.
Right? A song does that to you. Right? There's like a...
But I think advertising is right off.
Oh, right. That's a highly intentional manipulation. Right? We call it persuasion to make it polite, but it is that. But if you tell yourself that this is what I love, right? And then you pursue it, you have no idea how far it can take you.
Right.
Because I think people talk a lot about talent. And I think part of talent is learned.
Right.
Part of skill is learned. Talent is innate, but part of skill is learned. Skill is learned, right? And hunger beats talent 99 times out of 100.
Right. True, right?
Yes.
No, you made an interesting point. You immerse yourself into reading, all these great writers, right? And I'm sure it must have been very hard to access their work then, right? It's become so easy now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're probably one search term away to find all the great work out there, right? But if somebody's starting out today, what should they definitely should read, and what should they definitely learn? One skill if you want to get into copywriting.
The skill is reading.
Yeah.
Right? Read, read all kinds of things. Right? From sublime to shit. From the profound to pulp. Right? Read new things, read old things. Right? Read poetry. Read autobiographies. Read fiction. Right? Different genres. Because again, in the span of your work, you're not limited to one genre.
True.
You
That's the
might be
beauty about it.
called to make somebody cry now, and to make somebody completely despondent 6 hours from now.
Yeah.
Right? And you need to have the breadth of accessibility to these things, right? To do that. It's very simple. It's what you put inside of you that affects what comes out, right? So experience a lot of things. See, you can't experience everything in the world by first hand.
Right.
But so many people have experienced so many things. So you can glean from that, right?
True. Absolutely.
Also, consume far more than advertising. You should
Yeah.
look at content, look at all of that, right? And your attitude is that how do I do it better? Right? A lot of times what happens with today and this thing is that you look at the content creator and say, I will do that. No, it works for them.
Then, and not necessarily.
Right. And people go there because there's no commercial this thing attached to. It's how do you do that plus plus. Now, what's the value that you bring to it? Yeah. Because your branded content needs to be better than everyday content for it to stand out and to be consumed. Otherwise, why does anybody want to consume your commercial message? Yeah.
Right. True, absolutely. So,
And-
what has changed from the 90s and what has not changed?
Oh, I mean, work life just was a hell of a lot more fun. Because I think we were not as politically correct. I mean, the stuff that we pulled as kids in advertising, I'd have gotten fired some 30 times for that. It was this age, right? What's different was, to be really good, to become really good, you have to study the masters.
Right.
Not study the shit that's going around you, right? And understand, it's not just, why do I say study, not just like read and this. You have to understand what makes something good, right? Why does it move me? Understand the principles behind that, and then figure out how would if I had to do it, how would I do it? So I used to try to rewrite the ads like that Neil French has written. And in the beginning, there was shit, right? And Neil French became the reason. He had come down for a review, and just like after getting drunk after this thing, I said, "No, I'm reading one of your ads." And I read it out, and I just laughed and said, "Man, it doesn't suck. I'm surprised." And that was the highest compliment you could get out of you, right? I remember this is at a retreat. He took the jacket off his back and gave it to me.
Wow.
And I'd done some other work that he liked and stuff like that. So, yeah. So, that's it. You get... They say, right, if I can see further, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
It's learn from the best that you can. All right? And sometimes you'll find them working with you, but the world is there and it's far more easily accessible than it was back in the day, right? You have to steal somebody's one show, borrow it.
Yeah.
Or that's what we called it at that time. The Losers Archive and all that. And study the hell out of it, man. And it's not just the logic of it, but the emotion of it. Like how understand writing, understand the cadence. Well, cadence can make you feel different, right? Understand how to say things simply, but in a way that moves people. Writing is not about words. It's about thoughts, feelings, and insights.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that the best insights come. I think your stand-up comedians have really good insights.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes insight is a great idea. Right?
Exactly.
So I think you need to be curious about things around you. You need to be observing things and keep learning, right? So maybe that is not change.
Right? You are so dead on about that, right? One of the things that, people probably say it's a bad habit. I'm a habitual eavesdropper. And no matter where like my wife and I go for dinner, we've done this for as long as we've been married, and she got this freaking virtue from me. I call it a virtue, you might call it whatever, of eavesdropping on people's conversations in the restaurant and then trying to come up with a backstory to what they must be going through in life, right?
And it's so much fun.
And the thing is, when you do that, you learn this thing. I've got, insights from those conversations, right? Lines of dialogue, beginnings of taglines.
Have you
So
used in any of your campaigns?
Oh, yeah. There's
Which one?
quite a few, right? In films, it's on that lines, the same, because you attach a certain character to it, right? And it's a dialogue needs to be, it's like some real person said it, and that's when it becomes believable, right? Oh, so, and that's kind of what you need to do is like you have to have your heart open to the world,
Right.
right? And take everything in and not be judgmental.
So what is not changed is that you need
Yeah.
to be curious, you need to be a collector.
Oh yeah, so
What is probably changed is that now it's very easy for you to do that, right? There is access.
What's changed, right? Is I think one of the things is back then, right? I used to do it. It was done to me. You had to write at least 20 headlines to get one approved. That, I mean, Ramanuj, dear friend who worked with me for 5 years, right? At Ogilvy, Bachas used to work in my group, right? Writer, fine writer. There are times when he's like halfway through this thing and said, just give me the paper and just scan them and crumple this thing and says, you know what, think of it like this and go. And just do that. That's the rigor, right? I think that's lost. People generally go with their first or third idea, at the most third idea, at the third expression. Time's also of this thing. But the thing is, if you don't do that, right, do that in your spare time, right? Follow that rigor. Then what will happen is, you may write 3 lines, but you'll have written 20 in your head, right? You'll have come up with 3 ideas, but you'll have come up with 20 in your head and discarded it.
So sharpen your craft.
Right. Oh, but you sharpen your thinking.
Yeah.
You sharpen your craft. It also, that speeds you up. Right.
Right. No, if I get a little more tactical and say, if the brief lands on your table, right?
Yeah.
What's the first 30 minutes look like? How do you approach it?
Firstly, I try to understand what the problem is. Right. What are you trying to solve for? Right. What's the brand's problem? What are you trying to say? Who are you trying to say it to? The other thing is, like, a lot of times, there's an insight in the brief. Now take a look at that,
Do you challenge that insight sometimes?
oh, well, most of the time I've done that, right? And because a lot of times it's not an insight, it's an observation.
Right.
There's no depth to it,
Right.
right? Because insight is something that lies deep in between, right? It's the a mother will wake up no matter how fast asleep she is, when her very little baby is crying.
Right.
That's an observation. That सबको पता है. But if I tell you, then a mother's psyche is so, and body is so wired that if and the baby cries in a particular way, her breast will start leaking milk. Now, say, okay, then you start thinking about how deep is it, right? It's not just conditioning. There's genetics. There's what's happening in the brain, right? So those are the depths you need to get to, right? And there's not just like human insight, there's cultural insight.
Right.
Right? So you've got to get there, to get deeper, right? you have to delve deep within you what you know of the world, what you've experienced to it, right? And of those people. A lot of times what happens is that when you ex- build an idea on an insight that really is resonant with people, and then you craft it in a manner that moves them. It does far more than even if you don't craft it in so highly that it moves people. A deeper insight will always get people than a shallower insight brilliantly crafted. Right? So find the depths, man, and then find a way to express it. In a sense, it's no different from poetry, right? Or stand-up comedy, right? Or any this thing. So what we try to do is get somebody to connect with an issue and make them feel a certain way about it, right? The comedian wants you to laugh at certain vagaries of the world. It could be political, it could be everyday life, it could be teenagers, it could be anything, right? A poet may also want to feel a certain way about the injustice of the world, the beauty of a flower, right? Or the way the woman of his dream walks.
Yeah.
And you've got to approach it the same way, right?
Right.
And that's why measure your words carefully. Not in which word to use, but how stick to the simplicity of the words, but depth of thought and feeling.
Right. So, if I to break it into, say in your first 30 minutes, you're first challenging the brief, you're challenging the insight,
Yeah.
and maybe at the end of the day, maybe you zeroed in on this is the problem you want to solve, and this is precisely the insight that you want to.
Well, absolutely, right? So, and the more you do it, the faster it becomes, right? I said, okay, this is the problem that the consumer has, and always start and the problem that the consumer has, because the brand's problem, who gives a shit? People don't give a shit about the brand's problem, right? So it's been give a shit about how somebody can solve my problem, right? So find a way to do that, right? Get there, and then find an insight in their lives that relates to that problem. Okay, then crack an idea that's built on an insight, then craft.
So, Bobby, a lot of your work is iconic, disruptive, be it the Silent Anthem, the Ambuja Cement film, or even the AT&T M Life. Now, how did you manage to convince clients to back such disruptive ideas? What's the secret formula? And how does somebody get great ideas greenlit?
So firstly, it's like I've learned early on is never say I've got a edgy idea. It's very creative and all that, because understand the client's not interested in your creativity. They're interested in increasing their brand engagement and their business. They were interested in increasing their brand engagement because they want to increase their business and their market share. Right? So speak to that. I've presented like the most outlandish ideas, right? As the most logical thing to do. Right? I set up the logic. This is the reason why. This is this thing. This is the this.
So don't start with the idea, start with the logic, saying that this
is the problem
that is going to solve an next problem.
This is the problem. This is the problem you stated, right? But that's not the problem. That's a symptom of the problem. That what you stated in your brief is a symptom. This is the problem that causes this thing, right? What's the problem in the consumer's life? What's the insight, right? Which is different. Like, for example, let me tell you about the Silent National Anthem for big cinemas, right? So, Madhukar was then my partner, the CEO of Mudra. He got a call from Arjun, no, God, I forget his name now. I think it's Arjun. Who is the CEO of Big Cinemas. And I said, why don't you guys come over and meet? And I've got a corporate brief for you guys. So he said, I want to do a corporate campaign. And I said, what is it about? His marketing person was there, but the brief was coming from him. He said, we are the biggest cinema chain in the country, right? They've taken over ad labs and all that. So they've more than 1,000 cinemas across the country. And so, I want to say, man, the best entertainment, the latest ever, we've got it. So I said, cool, let's think about it, right? I was thinking about it for some time. There was nobody else involved except Madhukar and I, right? Because we said, let's get the thinking down straight. So after 4 or 5 days, I called Arjun. I said, dude, can we meet up? A couple of days later, went back to his office. I said, you're not the biggest purveyor of entertainment in the country. There's satellite TV. They're on 24/7. They've got the movies, they've got drinking shows, they've got all of it, right? So that's the truth. But there's another thing. What you are, right, is that you are a force that brings a neighborhood together. Right? What happened? Watching a movie in a theater is a community experience. Right? Where 300 people have the same experience at the same time. And they come out feeling a certain way about it.
Right.
It's a little bit different for each person. But I told them, you know what? Have you been to the movie to watch a Jackie Chan or a Kung Fu or martial arts movie? And if you watch people when they come out, and one guy bumps another, that guy does like this. It's his automatic, it's programmed, right? And it'd be anybody, because you've had that experience. All of you have had that experience. You've laughed together, you've cried together, right? And it brings those people together. There's that emotional vibe, man. And people come out and talk about the movie. So that's what you are about, right? And he said, oh, I hadn't thought about it like this. There's nothing else that does that, right? So I said, cool, if you're good with this, go back, think about it, right? And 4 or 5 days later, went back, Madhukar and I went back, and Madhukar was coming from another meeting. He hadn't heard anything. These guys, Big Cinema, had a budget of 60 crores to spend on media, right? So, which even at some 10% agency commission, what do you mean? Fucking 6 crores for Muthra. What happened in the meeting would have made Madhukar Kamath cry because he saw billings go. It's like there, and I had no piece of paper, nothing. So I said, where's this thing? You guys have a deck? I said, no, not. कुछ नहीं है, हम लोग बात करते हैं, right? We'll just chat. Now, sir, you remember what I talked about you being a community experience, an experience that brings the community together, right? Now, around the shared feelings, shared emotions. You say, that I still remember that. It's very powerful, right? And nobody's talking about it, and nobody does it more than, right? And I said, you don't just do that in a community. You do that across a community called India. I said, that's true, because we are the biggest. And I said, you know what? Then you don't need to talk about that we bring people together. Right? Because that's a manufacturer statement. Like, so how do you make this powerful? Right? Is let's not create a piece of advertising, but create a piece that evokes people to rethink about connections in their everyday lives. So, you know, if you answer, you, what is more powerful, the idea of bringing people together or standing against something that divides people? It's comic book logic, no? The greater the villain, the bigger the hero. And so, he said, what's the villain here across the country? And that time, the entire language was going on. So, this is the news, right? From my pocket, I carried scraps of newspaper cuttings. Right? But you're right, this is in the public consciousness. He said, yeah, I've been reading on it. So that's our fight, right? Is to tell people that your love for the country is beyond your regional or language identity, right? And then I narrated the film. He said, in your theaters, right, you play the national anthem, everybody stands up for it. That's a moment of pride. Now, what if we use that to get people to rethink about what's going on with them and how their prejudices are tearing what Vande Mataram is all about, right? And I'm narrating a film of, you know, the idea of the silent national anthem is deaf and mute kids singing the national anthem through sign language. And I said, you know, the whole idea is that patriotism needs no language. And so there was silence. The hand flowers. And then it's like we didn't respond, maybe for 2 minutes. He said, जाके बनाओ. कितना बनेगा? कितना लगेगा? I said, you had a budget of 60 crores. Give me 1/60th of that because you're not going to spend any money. It's running in your theaters. Madhukar Kamath cried, but this thing. So that went on to win the national award.
Right.
What happened is that it came out, and that Republic Day, all the national channels carried it free of freaking cost.
Wow.
Right? They played that on the thing. So a lot of like it was
The
people
only-
could have said, oh, I could have said, oh, this highly creative, but it was a logical this thing to a problem that he had stated, right? So the fact that we did not say we bring communities together, we did something that brought communities together, right? And started conversations around it.
Right, right.
So this is like 14 years later, but even now, sometimes when you'll see playing on channels.
Yeah, it's as relevant today.
Yeah.
So I think framing, if you are able to frame the problem right and say, I have a solution for your problem, you'll be able to
Exactly.
sell the idea.
So a lot of times it's not just, it is getting there's people out of the framing of how they see the problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Understand, a lot of times when people give you a problem, they give you a symptom. They haven't really got to the depths of it. Because a client is doing a lot of things. This is one of, and it's your job to go deeper and understand what is the underlying problem between them in this thing. Right? And how can we make it bigger? Right? How can you make the stand bigger? make this solution bigger. Right? And then you find something in culture or human life, right? That is disruptive. Right?
Right. True. I think one probably mistake that a lot of, so I think if your idea is great, but if you're not presenting it well, it's not
Right, yeah. You have to present it in the right framework, right?
Right.
Put it in this thing. Because understand, people are looking for solutions that will work for them,
Yeah.
right? And you've got, at the end of the day, for him, it was logical. Okay, this is this thing, this is a step, and this does that,
Yeah.
right?
So there's another interesting thing you said. You said, I didn't have a deck, nothing. You said, let's have a conversation. And I've heard this from a lot of people that clients love to sit in your presentations and people look forward to it. So what's the secret sauce again? You make it entertaining, you make it...
So you make it human, right? It's a conversation, not a presentation. So the moment I swear that I remove the table that's between us, right? Remove that. It takes the pressure on them to judge something, right? And you say that, okay, also over the course of the relationship, right? You suddenly coach, man, it's like, let's build something together. You have to, that togetherness needs to be there, right?
Right.
They feel part of it, which is why sometimes, you need to have a couple of meetings before the meeting when you share the idea, right? And maybe you do it, if it's big enough, right? So you do a tissue session.
Yeah.
Where all the ideas in the tissue session you're using to guide them towards something that you actually wanted this thing. Right? So there's, getting somebody to support and not buy the idea, but buy into it.
Yeah.
Right? And to be a part of building it it takes some doing. That people build something that they feel a part of.
Yeah.
So if you bring people in and make it inclusive, then they're more likely to not just sit there and be judgmental. Right? If you own it, right, there's a certain attachment to it.
Right. Right. You make them part of the process. Yeah. So now, we also spoke about, problems, right? And one problem is that advertising is a lot of teamwork, right? You work with multiple people. If your art partner isn't great, if your account management, if you don't have that chemistry, sometimes it's not gonna work, right? So you turn around a lot of agencies and you turn around a lot of teams. So if you come across, a team that is not creatively up there, that fire isn't burning, how do you turn that around?
It depends on people. You have to understand who you're dealing with, right? Sometimes people just need hard lessons, right? But the thing is, a lot of times, this is what I tell creative directors, right? And this is something I learned because I've been fortunate enough to work with some legends in the business, right? Both internationally and this thing. People I thought I'd never even see, let alone work with and learn from one-on-one. Yeah. So one of the things, I remember I was joined as creative director at Ogilvy, New York, right? And the thing is, there's this short brown boy with a fucking funny accent, right? Who a bunch of white people, it's I think my partner in Batwal and I were probably the only colored creatives in the whole department, at least for the first 10 months, right? And not just like colored from within the country, from outside. Yeah. And this is in 2000. And many of these were older than me, right? Because I was like 8 years in the freaking business. These guys have spent 10, 12, 15, and they're reporting into me. And so there was, in the beginning, there was a tussle because, this is what the fuck, we probably don't even know English properly, right? So,
And you moved from here.
yeah, from there to this thing. So I've had, I kid you not, in the beginning, I've had a guy come on. So how do you work? First, do you think in your native language and then translate it into English and then this thing? So I told him, dude, does it look like, when you talk to me, does it look like I'm taking time to reply to you? Right? He said, no. He said, why is that? He said, because, because of our upbringing, right, we're capable of thinking in multiple languages. And it depends on the environment I'm in, right? And I said, dude, there are more English-speaking people in India than there are in America, right? And our English is far better than yours, right? It's far more grammatically correct than yours, right? So, so in the beginning, it was kind of because I used to deal with people like this thing. If it wasn't up to par, I used to just take the thing and just write it in front of them and say, okay, this is it, and go back, right? And so Rick Boyko was the Chief Creative Officer of North America, Ogilvy North America, and the guy who hired me. He took me out for a beer. So, for two reasons. One, I used to come in, like crawl in by 10:30. So, Friday afternoon, there's like summer Fridays, by 1 o'clock, office is done. Everybody goes out to the beach, whatever. They said, what are you doing? I said, no, I'm nothing, but probably just go hang. They said, no, you're hanging with me, let's go get a beer and lunch. They took me out, and the first thing, he didn't give me a lecture about anything, right? So, we're chatting about all kinds of things about creativity. His time at TBWA, he was Steve Hayden's partner when they did 1984 commercial for Apple, right? Which is still called the greatest commercial ever made. And was just listening, like asking questions and just absorbing all the stories. And then he told me about his day. How he gets up at 4:45 in the morning because he stays in Connecticut. Gets ready, makes some breakfast, right? Gets into a train, travels for an hour and a half, and gets to the office by 7:30. And for a moment, as I was drinking the beer, I said, ये मुझे क्यों बोल रहा है भाई तो इसकी जिंदगी है मेरा क्या लेना देना है I said, oh fuck, he's telling me he heads creative for all of North America. He travels 1.5 hours and he is there by 7:30. I live 2 blocks away. It's a 7-8 minute walk, 10 if I'm hungover, all right? And I crawl in at 10:30. Lesson learned, buddy. And that's why sometimes, people try to teach you in ways that's not direct. The other thing, he told me, he shared an article, right, by a guy called Edward Boscher is, I think, yeah, famous creative director passed away. Uh, and the article, the headline of the article is that the creative director is not always right.
Yes.
Right? And then we start talking about what being a creative director is. So from then on, my thing was, right, is just don't reject the ideas. Right? Don't say it does not work. Right? And tell people why it does not work.
Very important.
And discuss ways it could be better. Right? Oh, this same thing, maybe if you write it like this, it could work. But it still won't be great. So maybe try a different angle.
Right.
Right? See, people think the job of a creative director is to be a quality control inspector. That's not your job. Your job is not even to make the work better. Your job is to make the people better.
Better. Yeah.
Right? And people will become better if they understand why something is not good, how something can become better, no matter how shit it is. Right? No matter how bad anything is, right? It has some value. I've been in so many creative reviews where somebody shares a crappy idea and somebody else looks at it, something else, and it's gold.
Yeah. 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 You
All right.
build on it.
Exactly. Just look at something differently, right? And that's the whole part of it. Now, what's your job? Then create an environment where people can be fearless, right? It's okay to be stupid and say stupid things as long you don't let people remain stupid. And that's on you, buddy,
Yeah.
right?
True. True. No, amazing. Very important to do that. Before we end, one last question. With all the AI that you're hearing, right? If you were, a copywriter today, just starting out, how would you use AI?
So, if I was a copywriter starting out today, I would do nothing differently from what I did 34 years back. All right? I'd still be a glutton for learning, understanding, and becoming better. Right? Master the craft. A lot of times it's also about find who your heroes are. Find whose work really moves you. Then imitate them. Right? It's okay. Every artist imitates in the beginning.
Yeah.
Till they find their voice.
Yeah.
Right? And so do that. Right? I would seek to become as great as I possibly can so that I can use the tool that's in front of me better. Right? The AI is, it's not just like you put something into any generative AI and you get something and you say, you stop there, then you're a fool. You don't understand your craft. But if you say, hey, try it like this. Try this. Now, it all comes from your mastery of craft. Also, a lot of what you do, you use a prompt to stimulate the AI, and then you use what AI has created to stimulate you. Right? A lot of times, even poetry. I'm a poet, right? So I will not use AI to write poetry, but I will use AI to find great subjects for me.
Ah, nice.
Right? It's broadened my horizon.
Yeah, yeah.
See, I'll tell you one thing, right? This is from my own lived experience in advertising. When I joined advertising, right, there were no computers. Right? There was word processing computers or word processing machines. The art directors didn't have. How they used to do layouts? They used to take a freaking sketch pad and draw a layout on it, right? With pencil. okay, draw sketches of the distance. Then computers came, right? And then just to start, the Adobe Illustrator was there. People used to do layouts. And now what happened was some people understood the tech better. So what they could do was use that to become faster. But they did not become better because their skills at art direction were still mediocre. The really good guys could do far more because their imagination had an aid.
Right.
But what they started out with is themselves, their skill set, their craft, is this thing. So technology can only amplify and better what you have. If you have little, it will amplify that little into a little more. But somebody who's really, really good, right? They can produce works of genius. Now, the way I see it, and this is maybe seems like doomsday, right? To me, man, not to me, but it's the truth of what's going to happen. Is if you're average, if you're an average creative person, you will have no role to play. Those jobs are going to go because average work can be produced by AI way faster because all that average work is out there.
Right.
Right? It's been fed on all that, right? And then produce it much faster than you can. And it costs nothing. So overheads for any company is zero, right? Close to zero, besides the initial investment. And so you won't exist in this framework. The good people will become prompt in this thing. It'll become hybrid. There's human, there's hybrid.
Right.
The really, really good people, right, will thrive. It'll be a golden age of creative for the 2%, 3% of people who have this thing. I'll tell you why, okay? It is called artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah.
But there's no such thing as artificial imagination. There's no such thing as artificial insight.
Right.
There's no such thing as artificial innovation, right? AI can always only create what has been, better version of that maybe. It can't create something new. It cannot express what has never been expressed, right? People who are at the cutting edge of art, any form of art, will always say things that haven't been said, or say it in a manner that hasn't been said, right? And those are the people. So I'd say strive to be that. You may not get there, right? But you'll be down and far ahead of the game, right? And understand creativity is a thing that you are learning all your life, right? Understand one more thing, is that if you think you're good at something, that's a fucking trap, right? Because you get comfortable with just that. Yeah, I'm good at this, so I should keep on doing this. You're limiting yourself, right? I keep telling people every comfort zone eventually becomes a prison. It traps you right there.
Right.
So broaden your horizons. Learn something that is not natural to you. You may not be great at it, but it will inform what you're great at.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, if you are not learning every single day, then you're going back. It's not, you're not standing in place, you're going back. Right? And that's, like, you should, I'd urge every creative person, every 6 months, look at the body of work you've done. If you can't see the flaws and see how you could have done better, you're stagnating.
True. True. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bobby. It was amazing.
Happy to do it,
talking to
man.
you.
And I've learned from so many great people who've been so generous with this thing. Whatever little I know, it's behooves me to pass that on. It's my duty to do that.
No, you've been very generous. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on Craft and talking to us.
Thanks for this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully people
Loved it,
get
loved it,
something out of
loved
it.
it.
Even if it's just a
Note
laugh.
for myself as well. Yeah. Thank you.